with me today. Please say hi. Hello, everybody. Hello. Hello. Wow. So many highs there. Wow. Okay. Okay. So many highs. Thank you, everybody. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Yes, you know what time it is? It is 12. Okay. A few minutes after 12. It is time for English grade 8, lesson number 17. Wow. There's been so many lessons so far, and okay, yes, you're gonna have fun. You're going to learn English and have fun while at it. So I'm still your presenter. You know me by now, so let's get on with today's lesson without a waste of time. Yes, in case you are wondering what today's lesson is all about, this is what today's lesson will be all about. It will be about the correct word order in a sentence. We will also go through question forms as well as euphemisms. If you don't know what those are, you are in the right place. Stick around. And if you know what these are, you still are in the right place. You know, there is room to learn more. There is room to understand more fully. There is room to understand more of what we already know. Remember, the chat is still available for you. If you have questions, clarifications about today's lesson, please use the chat and I will attend to your questions. I hope you're all ready, so let's get on with today's lesson. Like we do all the time, this is the recap of the previous lesson. We were on dialogue, remember? We talked about a dialogue, what a dialogue is, how to write a dialogue, how to read a dialogue. Remember? That is what we did in the previous lesson. If you were not there, I really think you did miss out, but you can go on YouTube. These videos are available on YouTube. So yes, this is just a short recap of what we did. Okay, so I spoke about how a dialogue reflects a conversation between two or more people. You know, I've also talked about how a dialogue is written. That a dialogue, it is written in the form of a script. And I also said that you write the names of the characters on the left side of the page. And I also had an example where I showed you how to read a dialogue. And I also gave you a homework for you to write a dialogue. So did you write that homework? Who wrote that homework I gave in the previous lesson to write a dialogue? Yes, if I remember well, in that homework, I did say that I write a dialogue of what happened between you and your friend when the schools were reopening this year in January. You know all that excitement of not seeing your friend for the whole of December and some few weeks of January. So yes, I really wanted to know how it did go. That's why I said, please write and please write a dialogue. Did you all write the dialogue? Okay, I see only a few people in the chat saying they wrote the dialogue. Seems like many of you didn't do the homework. That's bad. That's bad. You should change that. Okay. So yes, that is what it was all about. We did say that a dialogue affords us an opportunity to capture the essence of an event, even though we are not in that event, we did not witness anything about it, we did not see the video, or we did not even hear the audio of that conversation. So that is what we dealt with on Friday in our previous lesson, which was on dialogue. Okay, now that we are done with that, let us go to today's news, today's lesson. Remember, I said it will be about we did say today's lesson is going to be about the correct word order in a sentence. question forms as well as euphemisms. So, without a waste of time, let's get started. Correct word order. So you will know that most sentences in English, they are written in the following order. That is, the subject comes before the verb which comes before the subject. If you can remember from most of our previous lessons, when I gave examples, most of the sentences I used as an examples, they were in this order. Okay, so here's a very simple, a very easy example. I said, I love you. Okay, I love you. So you will realize that I is our subject, love is our verb, you is our object. Are we all together? Okay, let me go. Let me do this again. So you realize here that you realize that I is our subject, love is our verb, you is our object. Okay, so this is how it goes. What is the order of this sentence? It is subject, verb, object. Okay, so if you can remember from our previous lessons, when I said I love you, so this is the order at which we write sentences. It is you write subject, verb, and an object. Okay, so this is a very simple enough example. But if it happens that you do not understand, please remember to ask me questions. Use the chat to ask your questions. So you will realize that if maybe we try to rearrange this sentence, it will not make sense. Okay, if if I say love you, it will not make sense because that correct order is incorrect. That word order is incorrect, and if I say to you love you, you won't understand what I'm trying to say because the order of the words I'm using is not correct. And if I say you love it will still be it, it will still be incorrect and you will misunderstand me because if I say to you you love you will think maybe I made a mistake. I wanted to say you love me. But no, what I wanted to say is I love you. Okay, so even if I say love you, is still incorrect. Okay, remember, so this is how this should go. This is the order this should be. So if you want to, one good way to remember this order is this acronym SVO. Let me use another color for it. So it's SVO. SVO meaning subject, verb, and object. So it's subject, verb, and object. That is the order of our sentences. Okay. If you do not understand, please do not hesitate to ask questions. We are here to help you. Okay, now what is next is question form. Question form. In question form, really, it is about a sentence which is written. It is a sentence which is written as a question. Okay, so one thing about it is you should remember that question marks are used at the end of direct questions. That is something you should always remember, that every time you write a question, please use a question mark at the end so that we can know that you are asking a question, and we won't have to wonder if you are saying a statement or a question. So that is what question form really is all about. Okay, so yes, there is an example there. Who are you? Because if I can write it this way and I say, who are you? It will really be it will really be a bit of a confusion, because you will not know whether I'm asking you a question or if I'm telling you something. Okay, so because this is a question, then it is good thing for me to add the question mark at the end. That question mark is the biggest indicator to show that my sentence in this case is a question. Are we all together? So that is what is all about. So that's what question forms really is all about. And sometimes it may be necessary to turn a statement into a question. Okay. So especially those who maybe you want to go into journalism, you want to be a news anchor, a news reporter, whatever your career aspirations are, it is an important skill sometimes to really be able to turn a sentence or a statement into a question. And we are that is the reason why we learn these at school. I know sometimes you may wonder, why are you learning this? So now you understand why you are learning this. So yes, question forms, I'm sure, okay, we did this I think a few lessons ago. We did the question form, but then we are doing it again because we are just brushing through it because it is connected with the next section, which would be next. Okay, so question forms, question forms, question forms. Remember, every time you ask a question, or every time a sentence is a question, we use a question mark at the end of that sentence. Okay, so please use the question mark, because if a question mark was a person, then question mark really was going to be angry and frustrated that we do not let him do his work. So yes, let's let's give question mark a chance to let's give question mark, okay, a chance to work, a chance for the question mark to serve its purpose. So remember, every time you ask a question, even if you're asking the question on social media to your friend, please use a question mark. I can promise you, those question marks you use when you ask questions, they will really help you to become a better communicator, and they will really help you to get the answers that which you need. They will help you to get the answers that which you want. Okay, because remember, before every answer is a question. So because of that, you really need to use the question mark. It will really show that what you are saying or what you are writing is indeed a question. Okay, let's continue. So I think you may remember that there are six words we use when we ask questions. That is the reason why I'm saying that everything you need to know, every answer you want, it starts with a question. Okay? If you meet somebody and you want to know who they are, you want to know their name, how would you know it? You know, chances are we are not mind readers, chances are, yeah, all those things. We are not those characters on movies, on TV who know everything. So it will be good for us. So what we have at our disposal is to ask questions. Okay, it is to ask questions. So if there's a person there, I don't know them, it will be good for me to ask and say, hi, what's your name? Then they can tell me their name. Okay, there's a question in the chat from NQT1. Okay, so NQT is saying, even if I'm asking a question to a person face to face, I must say question mark at the end of the question I've asked. No, 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 no. Remember, a question mark, you only use it when you write. Okay, so if I'm talking to you NQT, I will, if I want to know your name, because I know NQT there's not your name. So if I want to know your name, what am I gonna ask you? I will say, NQT, what is your name? Okay, so what will really communicate to you that I am asking you a question will be this. Let me go back to my previous slide. So in my previous slide, you will see that when you ask a question, you will realize that every time you ask a question, your voice goes up towards the end of your question. It is not something you plan to do, but it is something which happens on the subconscious level. It is something that your brain does because your brain really is that intelligent. Okay, so because your brain is that intelligent, and even the person you're asking a question also has the same brain. So when you ask a question and your voice goes up, the person you are asking, they will hear that your voice went up, and in their brain they will interpret that as a question, and because it is a question, then they will answer it. Okay, you can try it right now. Just ask any question, like just say any question. You will realize that when you ask that question, your voice would go up. Okay, for example, let us go to that slide where I made examples, and you will hear how my voice changes, how my voice goes up when I ask such questions. Okay, what is your name? Where are you going? When are you going? Why are you going? Which place are you going to? How are you going there? Did you hear that? That with every question I ask, my voice it goes up. It is not because I planned to speak that way, but it is because my only intention was to ask a question. But my brain makes it possible for my mouth that when I ask a question, my voice will go up. Okay, so you'll realize with every question you ask. Okay, here's another question. When are you eating lunch today? See, so you will realize every time you ask a question verbally, like when you ask a question verbally by speaking, by talking, then your voice will go up. That is an indicator that we have that you are asking a question. Okay, when we speak. But when we write, the only thing that really shows us, that demonstrates to us that you are asking a question, is the question mark at the end. Okay, are we all together now? Okay, there is another question. Neo is asking, so when someone asks me a question by typing, but they didn't put a question mark at the end, should I answer him or her? Well, if you know that that is a question, then you may really need to, then please do answer them. Okay, do answer them. Sometimes it could be something very important. Okay, so just bear with them and answer them. And maybe if you can just give them a tip that they should use a question mark, because that will make things better for you. But this thing usually happens in social media. That is why I'm stressing it. And the reason why I'm stressing it is because you become accustomed to it, especially right now that all of us we are home with the lockdown situation. So the way that which we communicate with other people is mostly by texting. Okay, so you will get too accustomed to not using the question mark, and by the time you go back to school, when you actually have to use the question mark, then you do not use it. Then what happens? You lose marks that which you should be having. Not only that, you also lose an opportunity to become a better communicator. Okay, sometimes you will get those busy people, those CEOs, those managing directors, and you write something like that to them on social media. They will blue tick you. Those people are too busy. They are too busy to try to figure out whether you're asking a question or not. And since there is no question mark at the end, there is no punctuation mark at the end, then we assume that you are telling us something. And if you tell me something, I am not obligated to answer because there's nothing for me to say. Okay. But if you put a question mark at the end, you realize it is very difficult to ignore a question. It is very difficult to ignore a question. So therefore, put a question mark at the end. You will see whoever you are texting. If you put a question mark at the end, I can guarantee you that they will reply, because that is how we are. Okay, that is how we are as people. That is how our brains are. Okay, that is how our brains are. That if there is a question, your our brains will want to answer it. So every time you ask a question, guys, please use a question mark at the end. You will thank me. I'm telling you, you will be very thankful for these lessons, because remember, we are not only teaching you what we are teaching you just to push time, just for you to earn marks in school. No, there are more reasons than that, so that you can become a better communicator when you write, a better communicator when you speak. That is why we are doing this. You need to know these things, you need to understand them, and you need to be able to also use them. Okay, so those are the 6 common words we use when we ask questions: what, where, when, why, which, and how. So since we did this in one previous lesson, then I will not dwell onto them today, because there is something new we should be doing today. So another thing, remember we also did this last time. I said you can turn a statement into a question by adding a question tag to the statement. Okay. An example I gave there was we are going home. So if we turn that into a question, we will add a question tag and we will say, we are going home, aren't we? So that aren't we is our question tag. Okay. And another way to turn a statement into a question, it is by rearranging the words and adding a question mark at the end. Here's an example for us. We are going home. Okay, so if you want to turn that statement, we are going home, into a question, what we do is we rearrange these words and then we add the question mark at the end. So it will become, are we going home? See, you will realize that there's no words. You will realize that all these words, I just rearranged them and added a question mark at the end. And even when I read it, it does sound like a question. Are we going home? You can really imagine your little brother, your little sister asking you this. Maybe you went to the shop, you are wasting time there. So because they get impatient, your sibling be like, uh, brother, sister, are we going home? Yes. So that is all with question forms. So let's go to something new, what we call euphemism. Okay, Neo is asking a question saying, can I say we are going home? No, no, we can't say you're going home. Remember, we say that we rearrange these, we rearrange the words. Okay, so we are going home is simply is our statement, but we added the question mark at the end. So this really doesn't sound like a question. So the best thing to do would be to rearrange these words now, and after rearranging them, then you add the question mark at the end, like I showed you there. Are we going home? Yes, that is correct. Are we going home? Are we going home? That is a question. Okay. So yes, that is how we do it. Okay. Thank you for your questions. Thank you. Let's continue to another section of euphemisms. So a euphemism is a respectable and inoffensive word or phrase that is used for another word or phrase that may be considered sad, offensive, shocking, or hurtful. I know you have heard of euphemisms. We use euphemisms. Usually, you will realize that we use euphemisms when we talk to older people. We use euphemisms maybe when we are eating, when we are on the table and we want to say something which can really be interpreted as being disgusting. I mean, imagine now we are on the table, we are having a very nice lunch, and you want to go to the toilet. Would you say that? Would you say I'm going to the toilet? No. I mean, you won't say I'm going to the toilet or I want to pee. You won't say that, okay? Because of what those words will do to other people around there. I mean, that is disgusting. you, that is the reason why we never go with food to the toilet, except for health reasons. But you know, so yes, that is what euphemisms really are all about. Okay, so that is when you say something which can be offensive, shocking, sad, or hurtful. You find a way of saying that thing, but in a different way. You know. So let us go to examples. All right. So euphemisms are usually used when talking about bodily functions. Okay, like I said with the toilet example, remember, going to the bathroom, it is because of the bodily functions, the functions in your body, like excretion, right? You need to go to the bathroom because you want to urinate. Okay, let me use those scientific terms, ne? Because you want to urinate or you want to defecate. Okay, so but you really can use those words because of the meanings that which they communicate. Okay, so let's say, for example, we want to say there was sweat all over him. I mean, sweat. I mean, it is not a good thing to see somebody sweating, and for those with sensitive sense of smell, it is horrible to really smell somebody's sweat. Okay, so what will be the best way to say it? We are going to use a euphemism. So we are going to say there was perspiration all over him, right? You realize that the word perspiration, it is a scientific term, okay? It is a scientific term for sweating. So it really makes it like, it makes it to be less, just a bit less disgusting, just a bit less displeasing, just a bit less unattractive. Okay, so it will be easier to say that. Okay. And okay, sometimes you also use euphemisms when we talk about death. Okay, why? Because death is something which is very hurtful, right? Death is something which is very hurtful. So because of that, for example, this my example that we just can't say he died at age 95. That's very hurtful. And if you say that, it communicates as if like you are very uncaring, you are very unsympathetic. There's a certain family, they are mourning the death of their 95-year-old grandmother, and you say their 95-year-old grandfather, and you're saying he died at age 95. That sounds very insensitive. Okay, that sounds very unsympathetic. So a better way to say this would be to say he passed away at age 95. That's better, right? Or you can say he passed on at age 95, or you can say he expired at age 95, or you can say he went on to heaven at age 95. I think that's better, you know. He went on, he went to heaven at age 95. You know, I mean, when we think of heaven, we think of a very wonderful place. So then if we think that somebody who died has went to a very wonderful place in heaven, then we really get comforted, you know. Even even you as the speaker who says that, you sound very sympathetic, you sound to be a caring person, which is a good thing because it means that you are really trying to help So that is euphemisms. Sometimes we use euphemisms to soften the reality of what we are communicating. All right. I mean, remember, there are some realities that are very harsh. Okay. So because of how harsh those realities are, then it will be sorry. So because of how harsh those realities are, it will be better for us to really try to soften them a bit. Okay. So here is an example there. She comes from a poor community. I mean, she comes from a poor community. That is a very harsh reality because if somebody is from a poor community, the things which comes to mind is that they do not have food to eat. They probably do not have water. You know, they do not have access to the internet. Um, they probably live in a house which maybe which its living conditions are not that good, you know. So it is a harsh reality when we say she comes from a poor community. So how can we soften that harsh reality? We can soften that by saying she comes from an underprivileged community, right? So we can say she comes from an underprivileged community. So that sounds better. Or we can say she comes from a low income community. That's better, you know. I mean, low income. It means that there is some money, but it is not really much money, but there is some money. So because there is some money, at least you know their basic needs are met. You know, so that is a better euphemism. Or we can say she comes from a working class community. Okay. Or we can say she comes from a modest community. So at least we have used this euphemism to try to soften that harsh reality of what we are communicating. Remember, if you have a question, please use the chat so we can help you. If you have questions, if you are lost, or if there is something you do not understand. Okay, so let's continue. We also use euphemisms when we express what is socially difficult to express in direct terms. There are so many such things which they are very socially difficult to express in direct terms. So we use a euphemism, right? So that is why we use euphemism because those things they have to be expressed, okay? But expressing them in direct terms is socially difficult. We know that in society there are certain expectations about things. So, and each and every society, you will realize that most societies is comprised of different people in terms of religion, in terms of culture, in terms of race, in terms of socio-economic status, in terms of anything you can really think of. Okay, so this is what really makes it difficult to really express some things in direct terms. Okay, so for these things we will also need to use euphemism. All right, so I gave an example there. I said it was Hitler who caused the genocide. That's very, I mean, I I don't know if you have already learned that in social science or in history. Apologies about that technical glitch I'm experiencing at the moment. So we are still on euphemism. We are still on euphemism. So yes, like I said, we use euphemisms to express what is socially difficult to express in direct terms. Okay. So in my next example, this is very offensive. It is very cold and cruel things to say. Okay. I don't know if you have learned this in history, but this is what happened. Okay. So it will be too cold and too cruel for us to say this statement, to say it was Hitler who caused the genocide. Okay. So it will be better for us to use a euphemism. So when we use a euphemism, what will we say instead? We will say it was Hitler who caused the ethnic cleansing. I will say it again. It was Hitler who caused the ethnic cleaning. Okay, it was Hitler who caused the ethnic cleaning. Okay, so although that really it does communicate what we wanted to communicate, but this time around we tried to communicate it in indirect words. Okay, so yes. So that is the thing about euphemisms. It really helps us to try to communicate difficult things. Okay. Okay, another use. Sometimes we use euphemisms to discuss an issue that is terrifying or taboo. You know that in every religion, in every socio-economic status, there are certain issues which are considered terrifying or they are considered taboo. Okay, and there are many of them. So here is one example. I said there were more than 50 victims at the accident at the factory. That's very terrifying. If you can read these on a newspaper or if you can hear this as a headline in the news, it is very terrifying. So a better way to communicate this will be to say there were more than 50 casualties at the incident at the factory. Okay, that's better to communicate that terrifying thing. I can communicate it to you without terrifying you. Another way to use euphemism is we use euphemisms to elevate the status of something. Okay, so if I was a salesperson trying to sell you a car, I will not say to you it is a good quality used car. Okay, I will not say to you it is a good quality used car. No, what I will say is it is a good quality pre-owned car. I will say to you, it is a good quality previously owned car, or I will say to you, it is a good refurbished car, or it is a good second-hand car, or it is a good quality pre-owned car. Okay, so that is how we can use euphemisms. You will see that we really need to use euphemisms as human beings, so that we can spare other people's feelings, so we can be able to communicate what we want to communicate. So yes, so that is the end of our lesson. If you have a question, please ask. So this is what we did today. This is the summary of today's lesson. We have seen that most sentences in English are written in the following order: the subject, the verb, then the object. We also learned that question marks have to be used at the end of direct questions. We've also learned that we can turn a statement into a question by adding a question tag to the statement. We also learned that you can turn a statement into a question by rearranging the words and adding a question mark at the end. And we also learned that we can use a euphemism. We can use a euphemism, right, to communicate something which can be considered to be sad, offensive, shocking, or hurtful. Then there is a homework for you on euphemisms. So I gave you 20 euphemisms. There is the first 10. So here you have to give euphemisms for the following words or phrases. Okay. Please take a screenshot of the homework. Please take a screenshot so you may be able to do it. So there are the first 10 euphemisms. Please take a screenshot. These are the euphemisms for your homework, and before the tomorrow before the beginning of the lesson we'll go through corrections. Then there are the other 10 euphemisms. So all in all is 20 euphemisms. So please do the homework, and tomorrow we will do corrective work. So please do the homework. Do it with your friends. Let your friends help you, your parents, your siblings, anybody who can help, let them help you. So this is the homework for today's lesson. So this is the end of our lesson. So we will meet again tomorrow. But before that, this is what you can expect for tomorrow's lesson. It will be about interviews, what an interview is, the roles of people involved in the interview, as well as how to conduct an interview. Yes. And so that is what tomorrow's lesson will be all about. Remember, you can find us on social media. We are on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and YouTube. Remember to use the hashtag #LockdownESchool hashtag to communicate with us. Right, so let us all meet tomorrow for our lesson. Keep well, take care. Remember to do the homework, and we will meet again tomorrow. Enjoy the rest of your day. Goodbye.